What's going on, boxing fans? Joel Williams with The Distance. I'm going to give you kind of a review for this Facing Ali documentary that came out last Tuesday on DVD. It features, people who stepped in the ring with Muhammad Ali and gave their take on what it was like to face Muhammad Ali in the ring. So you had Henry Cooper, Ernie Terrell, George Chuvalo, you had Joe Frazier, Ernie Shavers, there was George Foreman, Leon Spinks, Ron Lyle, and Larry Holmes. So all these men gave their own take on Muhammad Ali and what it was like to step in the ring against him. And you hear a lot of interesting stories and a lot of background leading up to these matchups and stuff. And I think that this is a DVD for any boxing fan, even the average casual fan will enjoy this DVD and or a film because you learn. It's like you learn a lot of stuff about boxing. You don't because you learn that, and I learned this especially by watching this DVD that there's a lot of politics involved in boxing. It's not just a matchup assigned and then the fighters get in the ring and fight. There's a lot more to it. There's more of a process to it. So you learn a lot about the politics of the business by watching this documentary. And on top of that, along with this documentary, you don't just hear about Muhammad Ali. You hear about these other fighters and what was leading up to these fights with Ali. Like you would hear all these little background stories from the other fighters, which is very interesting, which is very good for the documentary, because we know now that it's not shifted on just one person who was Muhammad Ali. We're hearing about what it was like to be these other men that faced them, and why they were boxers, why they chose to be boxers, and who were their favorite boxers growing up, and what led to them becoming either a contender or champion, and who did they have to face. So it was very interesting to look at it from that perspective. And because a lot of documentaries are just focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's the person the documentary is about. But in this documentary, you're hearing about other people. You even hear about Sonny Liston. They covered the Sonny Liston matchup and gave bits and details about Sonny Liston, who's one of the most rugged heavyweight champions of all time. Him along with Marciano, two of the most rugged. And other than that, you just hear a lot of background stories. Background stories I thought kept me interested, because if we're hearing all these men talk about Muhammad Ali in a documentary for a good hour and a half, I guess it'll get kind of boring, because I know that everybody knows that Muhammad Ali is one of the greatest of all time, and along with Joe Frazier, in my opinion, Frazier and Holmes and Foreman, all these men are greats in the sport. And and you had some very good contenders as well. You had Chuvalo and you had Lyle and Shavers. And Shavers, I think, is one of those men who if he was in the heavyweight division today, then I think he would be a champion possibly. But and one fight I didn't bring up was Leon Spinks, also in the documentary. So it was very interesting to hear about these matchups and what it was like to face Muhammad Ali from these men's standpoints. Very interesting, and it was very detailed. I like George Chuvalo's perspective of things was very interesting. I'm a little surprised that he could speak clearly right now, as hard as he's been hit by most heavyweights back in the 60s and 70s. I'm very surprised. We get to hear a lot of funny stories, and we hear about some ups and downs in the lives of these fighters. And And, it's very interesting. Ron Lyle, being in prison, and almost dying, and Ken Norton almost dying, and the circumstances of George Tuvalu, him losing his family, and stuff like that. All this stuff is interesting to me, at least. And I think the different perspectives will be interesting for any boxing fan or any boxing critic or analyst out here on YouTube. But it was, I guess, me as a person who didn't get to see the Ali era, but I have seen his fights on YouTube and on ESPN Classics for years. It was good to hear what it was like to face Muhammad Ali. What was in these fighters' minds. What were they thinking? That's something. I guess that's something that you really won't know unless you step in the ring with Muhammad Ali, who's probably, in my book, one of the top 3 greatest of all time. Because let's face it, my favorite 3 fighters, or my top 3 fighters would be Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Louis, and Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali, I'll put at 2 or 3, because he faced pretty much everybody, who were great fighters. Ken Norton, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, even some good contenders like Cleveland Williams, and even the former champion Floyd Patterson and Sonny Liston. Ali faced some tough competitors in his career, and I have to put him 2 or 3 on my top 3 greatest of all time. I can't give you a top 10 greatest of all time or a top 5 greatest of all time list, but I can give you a top 3, and I have to put Muhammad Ali on that list, in that category. But overall, the stories, the politics, and not only the stories and the politics, but overall, what these men really, all these men, even Frazier, had good things to say about Ali. And like I said, it's one of those things that could get boring if the whole focus was on Muhammad Ali, pretty much. And the whole focus wasn't on Ali. There was many different elements in the documentary that that would shift the focus a little bit. Go into the match, and then all of a sudden you hear about the life of one of these fighters, which is very interesting, and it would kind of want to keep your eyes glued to the screen, and kind of want to know more, see the matchup more, but then it just shifts to the life of that certain fighter, and it's very interesting to look at it that way. And then and it's kind of like, looking at that, you would want to see more of the matchup and stuff like that. But anyway, that's my thoughts on facing Ali. If you guys want to see the documentary, just send me a message to my inbox or comment me, and I'll send you a link to it, so you guys can see it. But anyway, that's my thoughts on facing Ali. It just came out last Tuesday on DVD. But anyway, that was Distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.